In this video tutorial, I'm going to go over how to use layers in Photoshop. Layers can be pretty cumbersome, kind of annoying in Photoshop, depending on when you're using a lot of images. So I'll show you how to do it in both Photoshop and Illustrator. Illustrator doesn't have layers, so it's kind of nice, but you don't get the editing capabilities that you do in Photoshop if you use Illustrator for this. So I want to, let's say I'm making a mood board or whatever, I'm just making a composition. You can get the pictures. I have the images over here. Right now I'm working on CS3 because I don't have CS5 on the computer that I'm recording. And so with CS5, you take things from the internet, drag them to your desktop, put them wherever, but then you can just drag them right onto the composition. I'd suggest making composition first by going to File, New. It's not letting me do it right now because I have one open and I'm doing something. So you go to File, New, and you can choose the size of it. Let me just do it. File, New. You can give it a name, and you can give it a size. So if you want a specific size, like I'm going to do 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, you can do so, and you hit OK, and then here's your composition. So that's how you make a new document. So in CS5 you can just drag it. You can drag images and drop it right onto the canvas. I can't do that in mine, so to simulate that, you can just drag and drop right there from the desktop, and then when you do so, you see that there's a box around it, and you can actually resize it, and if you hold shift, that you can keep it in the right ratio. And then once you're done with that one image, up here there's a check mark. It looks slightly different in CS5, but you hit the check mark and it saves your change. It saves what you did. So you can just drag them in, and you can kind of put them wherever. And you notice when you put one in, it creates a new layer. So I have another document of all of my kittens, and you see here there's layer 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you can kind of see the thumbnail on them. You can kind of see where each image is. So each time you bring an image in or bring something in, it creates a new layer in Photoshop. So that's kind of the first thing you have to get over, realizing that they're not all there. They're all just like different stacks of paper on top of each other. So if you hit the little eye, you can turn one on and off. It's also, if you're trying to move them around, you can do this real quick to see which layer you're actually on. And layer 1 is the background layer, and it was transparent. I just made it white, so that's why it's there. So let's say I don't like the order of these images. You need to make sure you're on the cursor, the move tool. You can hit V to be on it, because if you're not, it's not going to do what you're trying to do. And it's pretty frustrating. It just might be that you're on the wrong tool. So layer 5, and I want to move the fighting cats, and so I can move them around. And then alright, I'm done with that. If I want to move the pack of 5 cats down here, you see I want to move it, but I'm still on this layer for the cat, so I have to go down to the right layer, and then now I can move the cats over here. What you should do is, if you're working with a couple layers, you can actually rename these. So layer 5, and you can turn it on and off to see which one it is real quick. Layer 5 is, you just click it once, you wait a second. No, you double click it. Just double click it, and you can name it. So this is just good for you, because it makes a lot more sense than just layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. See, if you double click it wrong, it opens up a new menu, which is just, you can add effects to the image. Okay, so you just have to kind of mess around and just get the clicks right. So now I have these, and then now that I know the name, it's a bit easier to move them around. And that's how you work with different layers in Photoshop. It can be kind of annoying, which is why there's Illustrator, which does it differently, but you just don't have the editing capabilities that you do in that you have in Photoshop. So like if this fighting cat image, if I want to erase, let's say if I want to erase some of the background, I can do that, and you really can't do that in Illustrator. So there's a chance that you will need to bring your photo, if you want to do it in Illustrator, or you want to incorporate a photo into like a comic or anything vector based that you want to look crisp and clean, you would have to bring the image into Photoshop first, edit it, do whatever you want to the image, save it. I have another tutorial of how you can save it for web or devices, but it doesn't really matter how you save it. Just make sure the quality is good enough that it will look fine in Illustrator. So you save it, and then you have to import that into Illustrator. So you might have to start using both programs at this point to do exactly what you want. So to do this in Illustrator, you open up Illustrator, and here it's a bit easier. You can just drag, for me, with CS3, you can just drag the images right into there. And you see again they have the binding boxes that are around them, so you can resize them. And again, you can hold Shift. So make a composition of images without having to really edit them might be a little bit easier to do in Illustrator. And you can see right here, it knows when you brought the images in, so it puts the stacks of paper in a certain order. So you see this little, one of the fighting kittens, I'm sorry, is blocked by this image. Although it's white, it's still being blocked. So you have to right click on it, and you want to go to arrange, and you can say bring to front, and that'll bring it to the upmost layer. So if I do that, it blocks this, because there's a hierarchy of where the layers are. And so if you click on it again, you can go arrange. You can send backwards. We'll just push it back one layer. So that's how you see this right here. That image went on top of it. It's the same actually in Photoshop. If we go back to it, the top layer right now is fighting cats. It's whichever one is completely on top of the layers over here. So if I move this over here, you can see that it is going above the other ones. But the way you can change the layers is just by clicking on it, holding it, and dragging it, and you can see that it will move the position around, so you can shuffle it a bit. So I moved it around 2 or 3 times. And if we go back to the image, you can see now that the cat is in front of the cats on the blue rug and behind the 5 cats. So that's how you can kind of create layered compositions. And that's how you also work with layers. You just have to kind of get over the hurdle of it's a new concept, and you just have to work with it for a while before you feel comfortable with it. So you might have to use some Photoshop, some Illustrator to do what you're looking to do.